Life will always come with challenges. People will misunderstand you. Situations will push your buttons. But here's the lesson most never learn. You don't have to react to everything that tries to shake you. Learn to act as if nothing bothers you. Why? Because your peace of mind is your power. In a world full of noise, the person who stays calm stands out. Not because they don't feel, but because they've learned not to let every wave knock them off balance. It starts with your thoughts. The way you interpret events fuels your emotional state. If you keep replaying negativity, you keep living in it. But if you train your mind to reframe the situation to see it as a lesson, a test, or even just a passing moment, you take control back. Self-mastery isn't about ignoring pain, it's about managing it. It's about recognizing when something is trying to disturb your peace and choosing not to give it permission. Your energy is too valuable to waste on things that don't move you forward. When you practice stillness, not silence, but stillness, you operate from a place of power. Others may shout, others may blame, but you stay centered. This doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. You don't need to prove how right you are. Your calm is your confidence. Your restraint is your strength. So next time life throws you chaos, smile quietly, think deeply, act wisely, and walk away from anything that doesn't deserve your energy, not with bitterness, but with grace. That's how you win, that's how you grow, that's how you lead. Learn to act as if nothing bothers you, and eventually nothing will. Learning to act as if nothing bothers you is not about suppressing your emotions or pretending that life's difficulties don't exist. It's about mastering your inner world so that the outer world no longer controls you. When someone learns to stay composed in stressful, provoking, or emotionally charged situations, it doesn't mean they are emotionless. It means they've gained emotional discipline. This is a skill, not a personality trait. Emotional discipline allows a person to experience a full range of emotions internally, but choose their outward response intentionally. It's a powerful form of self-regulation that keeps you grounded when everything around you feels chaotic. Life is unpredictable, and people can be inconsiderate, critical, or even hostile at times. But if you react to every slight, every challenge, or every provocation, you'll live a life dictated by circumstances rather than by choice. The goal is not to become indifferent or numb, but rather to be aware and in control of how you engage with the world. There is tremendous strength in being able to say, yes, I feel this, but I choose not to let it shake me. When you learn to carry yourself with calmness regardless of the environment, you create a psychological shield. You are no longer living at the mercy of other people's opinions or moods. You're not tossed by every wave of criticism or stress. You anchor yourself in a deeper, more stable place within your own values, principles, and mindset. The act of not showing that something bothers you is a form of maturity. It's knowing that some battles aren't worth fighting, that some opinions aren't worth correcting, that some situations resolve themselves with time and distance rather than confrontation. This doesn't mean avoiding responsibility or passively accepting injustice, but rather choosing your moments and your methods with care. Emotional intelligence teaches us that reaction is not the same as response. A reaction is automatic, immediate, and often fueled by ego or insecurity. A response, on the other hand, is deliberate and guided by reason and purpose. When you learn to respond instead of react, you reclaim your power. You act with clarity rather than chaos. You make decisions based on long-term values, not short-term emotions. This principle also helps in building self-respect. The more you react to minor things, the more you dilute your own energy. You teach people how to treat you by how you handle pressure. If they see that they can disturb your peace with words or actions, they will, either intentionally or unintentionally. But if they see that your peace is non-negotiable, they'll think twice. Emotional composure isn't about being aloof, it's about having boundaries that protect your mental space. It's about giving yourself the grace to not be perfect, and others the freedom to be flawed without losing your center. You gain the capacity to step back and observe before you engage. You no longer allow your emotions to hijack your judgment. You learn to breathe before you speak and to think before you move. With practice, this way of being becomes natural. At first, it may feel like you're pretending, like you're holding back, but over time it becomes who you are, not because you've stopped caring, but because you've started caring more about your inner peace than about winning arguments or proving points. This shift in perspective transforms not only how you feel, but how others perceive and treat you. You become someone people trust in times of crisis, someone who leads not by volume, but by presence. When you remain calm in the face of difficulty, you influence others to rise to your level rather than sink to theirs. It's a quiet power, often underestimated, but deeply effective. The ability to remain unbothered in the midst of noise, stress, and negativity is what separates those who merely survive from those who thrive. You begin to experience life with more clarity, more patience, and more wisdom. Instead of reacting to life, you begin to shape it. You spend less time in regret and more time in reflection, less time in drama and more time in purpose. And that's how real growth happens, not through avoiding hardship, but by learning how to navigate it with grace and strength. When a person practices emotional control and chooses to carry themselves as if nothing disturbs them, they are not becoming numb or disinterested in life's challenges. Rather, they are cultivating a deep form of internal stability that allows them to move through chaos without being consumed by it. This stability comes from emotional maturity and a strong understanding of self. It is about understanding that external events are often out of our control, but our interpretation of those events and our reaction to them is entirely within our power. When you act as though nothing bothers you, you're not denying reality, you're mastering your relationship with it. You're saying, I see what's happening, I understand the weight of it, but I will not let it dictate my mood or compromise my behavior. This mindset is not about escaping life's responsibilities or dismissing valid feelings. It is about choosing when and how to engage in a way that maintains your dignity and energy. It is common to believe that emotional expression equals honesty, but unfiltered expression can sometimes damage more than it heals. There is a distinction between feeling emotions and allowing them to control your words and actions. Learning to act with poise despite inner turbulence is one of the most powerful habits a person can build. Over time, this controlled approach becomes part of your character, helping you navigate difficulties with grace. When others see that you are unaffected by provocation or pressure, they begin to treat you differently. You become known not as someone easily shaken, but as someone who brings a sense of calm to intense situations. This influence is not loud or aggressive. It is quiet and steady, often unnoticed but deeply respected. Your restraint becomes your influence. People sense that you are not living in reaction, and that makes you trustworthy, even admirable. You're no longer seen as volatile or impulsive, but as grounded and self-aware. This way of responding also protects your well-being. Emotional energy is a limited resource. When you give it away freely to every minor inconvenience or criticism, you drain yourself. Choosing not to be visibly affected by everything is a way of conserving your energy for the things that truly matter. This is not avoidance. It is selective engagement. It means understanding what deserves your attention and what can be released. Not everything requires your comment, your explanation, or your defense. Sometimes the best thing you can do is carry on with quiet confidence. That silence does not come from defeat, but from strength. It shows you no longer need the validation of others to justify your peace. Acting as if nothing bothers you does not mean nothing does. It means you have learned how to sit with discomfort without letting it control you. This mindset brings a deep sense of freedom. You stop being a slave to other people's actions, words, or approval. You learn to be centered in yourself. That centeredness becomes your compass. It guides your decisions, protects your inner life, and enables you to stay balanced even when life becomes unpredictable. Instead of reacting to everything that happens, you respond only to what aligns with your values and long-term goals. You no longer feel the need to correct every misconception or prove every point. You realize that peace is more valuable than being right. In this space of quiet strength, your confidence begins to grow. Not the kind of confidence that comes from praise or attention, but the kind that is rooted in self-trust. You begin to trust that you can handle things without falling apart, that you don't need to win every conflict to feel secure, and that, in the end, your calmness speaks louder than your anger ever could. Choosing to act as if nothing bothers you is a conscious decision rooted in emotional discipline, not indifference. It means that even when things affect you internally, you develop the strength to hold steady on the outside. The key idea is not about denying what you feel, but about not allowing what you feel to dictate how you behave. Everyone faces moments where emotions threaten to take over: frustration, disappointment, anger, or even anxiety. These emotions are natural, but the way they are expressed defines personal power. If every frustration is voiced in the moment of heat, it often leads to regret or unintended consequences. Instead, developing the ability to pause, breathe, and remain outwardly composed is a form of self-respect. It is telling yourself and the world that you do not allow your reactions to be determined by what happens around you. This mindset creates distance between stimulus and response. That small space in between, the pause before the reply, is where self-mastery lies. It is in that space that people choose dignity over drama, peace over provocation, and response over reaction. By holding onto that space consistently, you train your mind to observe without instantly judging or reacting. This practice helps reduce emotional volatility and increases clarity in moments of challenge. You begin to notice patterns in your thinking and behavior and gain control over them, and as your internal discipline grows, so does your external calm. Over time, this calm presence becomes part of how others experience you. When people see that you're not easily rattled, they begin to adjust how they interact with you. They either bring greater respect or choose not to engage in petty behavior because they know it won't move you. That's influence without words. It doesn't require shouting or over-explaining. It's the kind of influence that commands attention without seeking it. Your steadiness becomes a quiet force that shifts dynamics in your favor. People begin to see you as dependable under pressure, trustworthy in chaos, and balanced in difficult conversations. This doesn't mean you always feel calm inside, but it means you've trained yourself to manage what you feel without projecting it outward unnecessarily. In many situations, restraint speaks volumes. By not reacting to provocations or criticisms, you conserve emotional energy. This allows you to focus more on what truly matters: goals, values, and progress. When you don't waste energy reacting to every small thing, you have more power to invest in the bigger picture. Your attention becomes intentional. This intentional focus helps you navigate life with a sense of direction. You're no longer pulled in every direction by momentary emotions or external chaos, and that stability becomes a source of strength, not only for you, but for those around you. People begin to rely on your presence because they know it's not easily shaken. This form of emotional control doesn't make you robotic or distant. In fact, it allows for deeper emotional engagement because you're no longer afraid of feeling something strong. You trust yourself to experience emotion without being consumed by it. You can listen without interrupting, think before speaking, and engage with challenges from a centered place. This kind of presence builds genuine confidence, not a loud or boastful kind, but a quiet belief in your ability to remain stable through change, difficulty, or even conflict. You don't need validation to stay grounded. You don't need the last word to feel secure. The ability to walk away from negativity without needing to win is itself a victory. As this becomes part of your daily behavior, it rewires your internal belief. You begin to believe in your own power to choose peace, even in situations that once triggered you. That belief creates freedom. Freedom from emotional instability. Freedom from the need to react. Freedom from the habit of giving power to things that don't deserve it. And with that freedom, you create a life where calm becomes your natural state and resilience becomes your quiet strength. Developing the ability to act as if nothing bothers you is not about faking calm or pretending that life doesn't challenge you. It's about mastering a deeper level of emotional awareness that lets you function with clarity despite inner tension. This begins with self-observation, noticing when your emotional responses start to rise and understanding what triggers them. Instead of reacting automatically, you step back mentally and allow yourself to feel without allowing those feelings to take over. This is where true strength lies, not in suppressing emotion, but in managing it so that your actions reflect intention rather than impulse. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. What once took conscious effort starts to feel like your default state. In this state, you no longer give situations the power to shake your foundation. You begin to separate your emotions from your decisions. You can feel anger without lashing out, feel frustration without shutting down, and feel pressure without crumbling. This gives you control over your environment, not by changing everything around you, but by changing how you engage with it. Your presence starts to communicate something powerful, that you are steady, thoughtful, and in command of yourself. When you operate from this mindset, it transforms the way people perceive you. They no longer see someone who is quick to take offense or emotionally volatile, but someone who brings calm to tense situations. That doesn't mean you're unfeeling. It means you have developed emotional maturity. People begin to approach you with more care, not out of fear, but out of respect for the balance you maintain. They learn that you don't overreact, don't take things personally, and don't allow drama to control your space. This shifts relationships. You become a stabilizing force in personal and professional environments. Whether you're dealing with conflict, criticism, or unexpected challenges, your consistent calm becomes a resource for others. Instead of being part of the noise, you become the quiet strength that others look to for guidance. You no longer seek validation through confrontation or by proving yourself right. Instead, you focus on results, on progress, on maintaining your mental clarity. That shift allows you to conserve your energy for things that truly matter. You begin to see the value in silence, in walking away from unnecessary battles, and in choosing peace over pride. This way of living gives you a deeper sense of confidence. It's not the kind that's loud or demanding. It's rooted in the knowledge that you can handle whatever comes without falling apart. You don't need to control other people or every situation to feel secure. You've learned to control your response, and that's enough. That internal control becomes the foundation for consistent behavior, emotional health, and long-term resilience. Life will always include difficult people and uncomfortable situations, but your power lies in how you move through them. When you refuse to give them more attention than they deserve, you take back control of your time, your focus, and your peace. Over time, you begin to notice that what once irritated you no longer has the same effect. What once pulled you into conflict now rolls off your back. It's not because you've become passive, it's because you've chosen to grow. And with that growth comes freedom, the freedom to choose your response, to protect your mental space, and to live in a state of quiet strength rather than constant reaction. This emotional discipline also encourages reflection. You start to evaluate your habits, your thoughts, and your patterns more carefully. You ask yourself whether something is worth your energy, and if it's not, you let it go without guilt. That doesn't mean you ignore problems, but you become strategic about which problems deserve your time. You spend less energy explaining yourself and more energy improving yourself. You begin to live more intentionally, focusing on what adds value rather than what stirs emotion. This leads to a clearer mind, healthier relationships, and greater personal effectiveness. When you act as if nothing bothers you, it's not a mask, it's a mindset built on trust in yourself, on patience with life, and on the decision to rise above what tries to pull you down. It's a choice you make every day, and with each choice, you grow stronger, wiser, and more in control of the life you're building. The practice of acting as if nothing bothers you begins with understanding the gap between emotional reaction and emotional regulation. It is not about denying the fact that you feel anger, sadness, fear, or disappointment. It is about learning how to observe those emotions without becoming overwhelmed by them. This process requires patience and awareness. Rather than immediately expressing what you feel, you learn to pause and question whether the emotion you're experiencing needs to dictate your behavior. In this space of pause, you create the power to choose your response. The more you do this, the more it becomes second nature. It doesn't mean the emotions vanish. It means you build the strength to carry them without letting them spill into your words or actions unnecessarily. You maintain your center even when life is pulling at you from all directions. The ability to remain emotionally steady is not a sign of suppression, but of maturity. It says you are capable of handling what you feel without needing to prove it to the world in every moment. This inner discipline becomes a quiet strength, and it radiates into every area of your life. With time, others begin to respond to your emotional consistency. They notice that you are not quick to react, not easily provoked, and not prone to drama. That stability creates an atmosphere of trust and respect. In situations of conflict or stress, your calm becomes a grounding force. While others may escalate, you hold your position, not out of stubbornness, but out of self-mastery. People start to understand that your reactions are measured, thoughtful, and intentional. You become someone they look to in difficult situations because they know you won't make things worse with emotional volatility. Instead, you offer clarity, perspective, and balance. You become more effective in your relationships because you no longer argue over every misunderstanding or become defensive over every criticism. Instead, you listen, assess, and respond only when necessary. This doesn't mean you allow disrespect or ignore boundaries. On the contrary, it means you protect your peace by refusing to let others dictate your emotional state. Your boundaries are firm, but your tone remains composed. That combination makes your presence powerful and respected without being aggressive. This approach also shifts how you experience yourself. You no longer feel as drained by the emotional highs and lows that once consumed your energy. By choosing not to be visibly affected by every difficulty, you free up mental space. This space allows you to focus more on your goals, values, and the direction of your life. Instead of living in reaction mode, constantly adjusting to external stressors, you begin to operate from a place of intention. Your focus sharpens, your decision-making improves. You start making choices not based on temporary emotions, but on long-term vision. This creates momentum. The more aligned you become with your purpose and principles, the easier it becomes to filter out distractions and unnecessary drama. You recognize that your energy is not infinite, and so you spend it wisely. You avoid over-explaining yourself, engaging in petty arguments, or reacting to criticism that offers no value. Instead, you observe, reflect, and respond only when something truly requires your input. This makes your presence more impactful. When you speak, people listen, not because you're loud, but because you've earned their attention through restraint and clarity. As you grow into this way of being, your sense of self strengthens. You begin to trust yourself on a deeper level because you know that you won't betray your peace for temporary satisfaction. You stop needing to prove your worth through reaction or validation. Instead, your confidence comes from within. You carry yourself with quiet assurance, and that inner calm becomes your compass. It guides your interactions, your decisions, and your priorities. Even in moments of doubt or frustration, you remind yourself that your peace is not for sale. This mindset becomes especially powerful when facing uncertainty. While others may panic or overreact, you stay grounded. You trust that you can navigate challenges without losing control. That trust gives you resilience. You can endure discomfort without breaking, and you can hold space for others without losing yourself. That is not weakness. It is wisdom earned through experience and choice. And that wisdom is what allows you to move through life with steadiness and grace. Ultimately, this practice becomes part of who you are. It's not about pretending anymore. It becomes a reflection of your inner world. The emotional control you've developed creates freedom. Freedom from being controlled by others, freedom from internal chaos, and freedom to live a life that reflects your values rather than your mood. You start to appreciate the silence that comes from not reacting. You start to value the peace that comes from letting go. You understand that the ability to act as if nothing bothers you is not about apathy. It's about strength. Strength that was earned through countless moments of choosing patience over pride, growth over gratification, and clarity over chaos. And this strength does not need to announce itself. It is visible in your consistency, your choices, and your calm. It becomes a part of your identity, and as it takes root, it influences not just how others see you, but how you see yourself. You become a person who holds power without force, peace without passivity, and presence without noise. When a person commits to the practice of acting as though nothing disturbs them, they begin a quiet transformation that touches every corner of their inner world. It's a shift that begins with understanding the difference between experiencing emotion and being consumed by it. Everyone has moments of irritation, disappointment, or anger. These are human responses to life's friction. But the question becomes whether those emotions control your actions or whether you learn to manage them with grace. It's in those moments of challenge where character is built. The ability to stay composed when things are difficult doesn't mean you are emotionally detached. It means you have trained yourself to rise above immediate reaction. This doesn't happen overnight. It takes time to build the self-awareness required to catch yourself before reacting. It takes discipline to stay centered when your instinct is to lash out or defend. But over time, the more you choose stillness over chaos, the more natural it becomes. You begin to notice that the storms that once shook you no longer hold the same power. Your mind clears faster, your heart stays lighter, and your behavior becomes more grounded. That grounded behavior influences how others treat you. People sense that you're not easily provoked. They begin to approach you with greater thought and respect, not because you demand it, but because your calm commands it. In every interaction, you set the tone not by overpowering others, but by refusing to be pulled into emotional chaos. Your ability to remain centered makes you a stabilizing presence in any environment. Whether you are in a meeting, a conflict, or simply navigating a difficult conversation, your emotional discipline becomes your advantage. You no longer feel the need to interrupt, to outshout, or to prove anything. You can listen without becoming defensive. You can speak without raising your voice. You can disagree without being disagreeable. That kind of presence speaks louder than any reaction ever could. People take note. They begin to realize that you're not just calm on the surface. You've done the work to remain that way within. That work becomes visible in the way you carry yourself, the way you respond, and the way you walk away from things that no longer deserve your energy. Internally, this behavior also begins to reshape your relationship with yourself. You start to recognize how much strength it takes to remain quiet in the face of provocation, how much power there is in choosing not to be reactive. Every time you hold your composure, you reinforce the message that you are in control of your life, your choices, and your emotions. That feeling builds confidence. Not the kind that comes from approval or applause, but the kind that's rooted in self-trust. You start to believe in your ability to handle life without being thrown off course. That belief makes you more patient, more focused, and more intentional. It becomes easier to let go of small offenses. You stop chasing explanations or apologies that never come. You stop wasting your voice in rooms that cannot hear you. Instead, you conserve your energy and invest it where it matters most, on your growth, your peace, and your path forward. This emotional mastery begins to influence your long-term decisions as well. When you're no longer operating from a reactive state, you gain clarity. You see situations for what they are, not for how they made you feel in a moment of stress. This clarity allows for better decision making. You don't rush. You don't act from fear or anger. You wait, assess, and then move with purpose. And because you're not wasting emotional energy on things outside of your control, you have more to give to what truly matters. Whether it's your work, your relationships, or your personal goals, your attention becomes sharper. You become more productive because you're not constantly distracted by emotional noise. This is how discipline leads to freedom. The discipline to stay composed gives you the freedom to focus, to create, and to move forward without being weighed down by every emotional pull. As this becomes your daily practice, your external life starts to mirror your inner calm. Drama falls away, conflict decreases, stress no longer lingers the way it used to. It's not that life becomes easier, it's that you've become stronger. The same challenges that once disrupted your peace now pass with less friction. You've changed the way you interact with the world, and in turn the world responds differently to you. There's a quiet pride in knowing that you are no longer at the mercy of your emotions. You choose how to show up. You choose what to give your attention to. You choose when to speak and when to stay silent. These are not signs of avoidance. They are signs of awareness. You are no longer reacting just to feel heard or understood. You understand yourself, and that's enough. That self-understanding gives you an advantage, one that does not need recognition to be valuable. Eventually, this mindset becomes more than a habit. It becomes a way of living. A lifestyle defined by clarity, not confusion, a rhythm of responding instead of reacting, and in that rhythm you find peace. Not the peace that comes from everything going right, but the peace that remains even when things go wrong. It is a peace built from discipline, from reflection, and from the quiet decision to rise above what doesn't serve you. And as this peace grows within you, it begins to touch everything you do, transforming not just your responses, but your entire presence.